Okay, today we are working on subtracting integers. Last week we were working on adding those integers, both the positives and the negatives. Now we're working on subtracting them. So some of the keywords we need to know are those opposites. Remember, the sum of an integer and its opposite is 0. So if we had 7 plus -7, it would equal 0. So because they are the same distance away from 0 on that number line. Our rule is to subtract an integer, we need to add its opposite. So if we look at 5 minus 2, we know that equals 3. The addition model of that, adding its opposite, it would be 5 plus -2. We get that same answer of a +3. So if we're on the number line and we have 5 minus 2, we go to the left, because when you subtract, you go to the left, and we get to that 3. If we're doing the addition model, we would be at 5 plus -2. When we add negatives, we go to the left. So we're doing the same thing. So 5 minus 2 is the exact same thing as 5 plus -2. So they mean the same thing. You're subtracting a +2, you go to the left. If you add a -2, you're going to the left. Ladies in the back, this is not silly time. So let's look at our samples that we have on here of how to do this. And I accidentally clicked it. There we go. Let me move it up. We are working the same way we were working when we were adding. We are doing the same thing with that subtracting. So we need to be comfortable with our number line. So if we're going to subtract integers, remember 2 minus 7 is the same thing as saying 2 plus -7. So what we learned about adding those integers last week, we're still using that when we're subtracting. So what number am I going to start at with 2 plus -7? 2 minus 7. What number should I start at, Brielle? Look at our first number. 2. So you go to that number line with your first number, and then you're going to subtract 7 or add a -7. It's the same thing. Adding a negative, you go to the left. Subtracting, you go to the left. So we're going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what is 2 minus 7? Zoe?
5.
Is it 5?
-5.
Yeah, it's so important that we remember that it's -5. That sign makes a big difference. We did not end up way over here at +5. So we have to remember, if we're going to the left of the 0, we have to put that negative sign on there. Look at B. See if you use the number line. If you need to add on to the number line on your paper, you can add on to it. So do 12 minus -9, or you're going to add its opposite. So 12 minus negative is actually the same as saying 12 plus 9. So if we're adding 9, am I going to go to the left or to the right? We go to the left when we're adding a negative, so that would be for a negative. We're adding a positive. So when you add that positive, you go to the right. When you add a negative, you go to the left. So we're adding a positive, we're gonna actually go to the right. So 12 plus 9. What is 12 plus 9? Lily? 21. So it looks, when we look over here at 12 minus negative 9, it looks like we're going to be going to the left because we have that negative 9. But here's the way I learned it. If we say 12 minus negative 9, we always add the opposite. So I add a line on the minus to make it a positive and a line on that negative to make it a positive. So when you have minus a negative, you want to turn it into adding a positive. So let's look at C. Negative 3 minus negative 5. What do we want to do to that minus sign? What did I say to do to the minus sign, right?
Turn it into a positive.
Turn it into a positive. And if I turn minus into a positive there, is it going to be a minus 5? No. If I turn this into an adding, I have to turn the negative into a positive. So what is my answer going to be? We learned how to do that adding last week. Right, Regan? We're starting at negative 3. That's our starting point. And I'm adding 5.
2.
Yeah, if I add 5 to that negative 3, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I end up at that positive 2. So when you're subtracting with those negative numbers, remember, turn it into an adding and make it positive. Just like when we were talking about those fractions and you're dividing a fraction. Oh, I think that might have been the other class I was talking about, finding that reciprocal. You guys learned about that last year with the reciprocal. The opposite is kind of the same thing. We have to remember that rule. When you add a negative, when you subtract a negative, you want to make it add a positive. Is there a hand up? Anthony.
Wait, is there a thing called a negative number with a decimal?
It's a negative decimal.
A negative number with a decimal?
You can have a negative decimal. So if you have, like right here, would be 0.5 because it's halfway, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we go over on this side, it's negative 0.5. So wherever that decimal is on the positive numbers, its opposite is going to be on the negative numbers. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just the opposite. It'll be, if we're here with our decimal on positives, the opposite would be here with our decimal on the negative.
What about adding positive decimals and negative decimals?
Same way that you do with the whole numbers. So if you add 2 plus negative 3, you're adding 2.5 plus negative 3.5. You're going to add it the same way. You just have the decimals that come after it. The same rules still apply, whether it has the decimals or not. Let's look at the bottom of this page. Using integer subtraction. The highest point in Asia is Mount Everest at 8,850 meters. The shore of the Dead Sea, the lowest point in Asia, is about 410 meters below sea level. What is the difference between these elevations? what operation are we doing if we're finding the difference, Brielle? We're subtracting. So we know we have 8,850 meters minus 410. But it's below sea level, so it's a negative 410. When it says it's below sea level, we know we're going down into the negatives. So if we think about it, if this is sea level, Mount Everest is above it, so it's positive. The Dead Sea is below sea level, so it's a negative. So if we have 8,850 minus a negative 410, what do I have to do? Am I going to subtract? What am I supposed to do, Tristan?
You add.
I have to add, and if I change to adding here, what else do I have to change, Peyton?
You have to change like the hold on.
If I change my subtraction to adding, what? Help them out, William.
You have to change the negative number into a positive.
I have to change the negative to a positive. So 8,850 minus a negative 410 is the same as saying 8,850 plus a positive 410. Because what we are trying to find is going from here to here. What is the difference in their heights? So we're actually adding them together. Because we have the mountain goes all the way up here, the sea dips all the way down to here, and we want to know from here to here, what is that? So we have to add them together. So we get 9,260. So you see how we're actually adding, even though it said the difference? It sounds like we're supposed to subtract, but we have to change the subtraction into addition. Let's try one more. In Fairfield, Montana, on December 24th, 1924, the air temperature dropped a record amount. At noon, the temperature was 63 degrees Fahrenheit. And on that temperature, on our thermometer, we say here's 0, it drops down to negative 21 degrees Fahrenheit. So we were above 0 and then we went below 0. What is the change in the temperature? How am I going to set this problem up? What do I do? If we were at 63 degrees Fahrenheit and we drop all the way down to negative 21 degrees Fahrenheit, what was the difference from 63 to negative 21? What equation am I doing? Logan?
Subtraction.
Okay, so if I have 63 minus my negative 21, what do I have to do, Kira?
Change 21 to a positive 21 and make it addition.
Yeah, I'm gonna change from my subtraction to my addition. That means I'm changing my negative 21 to a positive 21. So 63 plus 21. So we have 3 plus 1 is 4, 6 plus 2 is 8, and I end up with a positive 84 degrees Fahrenheit. They want to know what that big change was going from 63 to negative 21. It changed 84 degrees in 12 hours. An 84 degree difference. That is huge. That is a big difference. So as we are doing these word problems, we need to look at setting up those subtractions of a negative. We want to make an adding a positive. Go ahead and get your workbook page out and your planners out. We are doing our workbook, page 71 and 72. I'm gonna stop the recording.